So she was like, what are you really scared of? And I was like, I'm really scared that, like, and I realised I actually had no idea what I was really scared of until she really asked me, what are you really scared of? And I was like, I'm really scared that I'm going to lose it. And I'm going to literally start running around on this tube and like scratching at the door like a rabid dog and be like crying and uncontrollable and insane, and someone's going to lock me up. Like they're going to, like I'm going to hurt myself, I'm going to hurt somebody, I'm going to throw myself under the train, like I'm going to lose it. So for me it started really randomly. I was always one of those people that love travelling around the world, getting on and off planes, and I love airports, you know, the hustle and the bustle and the noise. I was living in central London and I loved the noise and everything about it, and the smells and the busyness and being crammed in the tube in someone's armpit. And I loved that. It was the best of life, you know, everything was going on around me and none of it fazed me, and, you know, I'm a performer. And then I just was driving back to London one day, having not driven for a bit. No one has a car in London, as you know. And so I borrowed my mum's car and I was driving back to London, and I was just halfway up the M3. I don't think I was even that far. And I just started to freak out. I didn't even know that's what it was at the time, but I just started to feel like, I'm not right. This is not okay. I'm not safe. I don't feel okay. I felt really unwell. I was with my boyfriend at the time, and I was like, I'm really sorry, I'm going to have to get you to drive. He was like, obviously, like, yeah, of course, no problem, I'll drive. I was like, okay, cool. So then he drove, we got home, no problem, but by which point I was just like a bit freaked out by this. So we didn't talk about it. We just kind of left it, that sort of quiet thing, and the car sat outside the house. And neither of us drove it, neither of us talked about it. And then about 2 weeks later, we drove down to Devon to see some friends, and he drove there, and the arrangement was I was driving back. And we had a lovely weekend, and then on the way back, I started driving and been driving about 5 minutes, and it was time to join the M4, coming back from Devon towards London, and we got as far as the motorway junction, and I was like, hell no. I was like, what's going on? I was like, this is ridiculous. I've been driving on the motorway all my life. I know I was 29 at the time, been driving for 10 years or so, never had a problem driving before, but I was like, I'm not doing this, I can't do this, I'm really sorry, I'm going to have to get you to drive. So obviously he was a bit freaked out. I've been with this girl a few years, I don't understand. This has never happened before, but, you know, obviously he just said, okay, you know, no problem, I'll drive. So we stopped, he drove, we got to the motorway junction, and I was like, I'm really sorry, I can't. And I'm just a passenger at this point. I was like, I'm really sorry, I can't. I didn't know why, I didn't know what I was feeling, I just knew that I couldn't be in that car on the motorway. So we stopped, and we were like, okay, well, what do we do? I was like, well, we've got to get back to London, it's Sunday, I'm going to go to work tomorrow, we're a long way from home. So we drove back via the A roads, which if you've driven from Devon to London on the A roads, it took us about 7 hours. It was a really, really long time to drive back to London, and I was all right. Well, notably freaking out kind of about the idea of what had just happened, but okay with the driving bit. And we got back to London, and the car sat outside the house, and we didn't talk about it. And I think he didn't want to upset me, I didn't want to talk about it, I was too ashamed of what had happened, I was confused. And we just left it. And then I went to work, and obviously we were in central London, and I found myself just having that little niggly feeling of, oh, I don't like this, getting into the lift to go up to work. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I have no choice, the lift's the only way to go, fine. But then I was finding it going into the tube, I know I don't like it, I'm just not going to. And so very quietly and very secretly, I just stopped doing these things. I stopped going in the tube, I stopped getting on escalators, I stopped getting in lifts, I stopped getting in the car with other people. I stopped going to things because I didn't know how I was going to get home, because I thought, well, if there's no tube, if there's only a tube, then I'm going to have to get the bus, and I don't know what the bus route is. And very, very quickly I went from being a fully functioning travelling Londoner to being someone who really didn't want to go out, really struggled to get to work. And when I was sat at work, all I was thinking is, how the hell am I going to get home? Because I've got to try and get on the tube to get home, or I've got to try and find a bus. And there were times when I would just sit. There was one time I sat on the pavement and just cried, because I was like, I can't walk across this bridge. This bridge I've walked across 100 times. I just couldn't, I don't know why, but I couldn't. It just was too scary for no reason. I just couldn't walk across this bridge to get home. And a friend came and rescued me. A wonderful friend of mine came and rescued me and took me for coffee, and we just chatted about nothing, and then I got home, and that was fine. And over the course of the next couple of months, I just kind of found myself leaving my job and the relationship and stuff for other reasons, but eventually came back to the New Forest, which is where my family is, and moved back with my mum and dad because I was newly single. I needed a place to stay, and I needed a new job and a new life. And I was telling myself at the time this was just because I wanted a change, which was true and needed. But the move out of London really was because I just couldn't handle the fact that I was just freaking out trying to do everything. And so for about a year, I just lived with my parents and did very, very little. Poodled about on the little country roads in the New Forest, saw some friends. I think I went to the gym a little bit, took a part-time job. I remember trying to get from the New Forest to Dock 20 and having to get my dad to sit with me to get onto the dual carriageway the first few times I did it because I was so scared, but I had to get a job, had to find a way to make some money. So anyway, this kind of went on for about a year, and then one day I got a phone call from a friend of mine from London I hadn't spoken to in a couple of years. A friend of mine called Tom. Where the hell are you? I was like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm in the New Forest. I'm having a lovely time. It's all pretty and peaceful. And he's like, yeah, bullshit. Where are you? What are you doing? I was like, no, I'm having a change of life, and I've changed my career, and it's nice here. And he's like, nah, I'm not buying it. What's going on? And so I kind of said, well, these issues and travel. And he said, right, get your ass on the train to come and talk to me. He was not taking no for an answer. He's like, come and talk to me. So I found my way to get on a train. It was like, hard, did it in the middle of the day, middle of the week when it was quiet. And we sat down in this bar in Clapham Common, and I told him the truth, that I was absolutely terrified of travelling anywhere and I didn't know why, and that I hadn't told anybody. And he listened and didn't say very much at all, except that he had a number of great therapists, which at the time just kind of felt a bit like, well, whatever, okay, fine, I'll give it a try. But he was pretty persistent, and I've got to say that having told my story once, I felt just that little bit hopeful. So fine, I'll go and see this woman. But I was living in the New Forest, and she was in Clapham, and obviously travelling was the issue, and this is pre-COVID, so this is 10 years ago, so there's no online anything in that sense. If you wanted to see a therapist, you had to go in person. They weren't taking phone consultations, they don't travel to you. But I was like, I'll give this a go. But I'd tried therapy before. I'd been to counsellors. I'd tried all the NHS stuff. None of it had made a difference. Some of it made it worse. And I thought, well, I'm not going to do it unless I get a chance to interview this woman. I want to find out what she's about. I'm not getting back on one of these trains unless I know what she's doing and if she's for real. And the conversation that we had next was the kind of second step to me getting better. The first step was Tom just saying, get your ass up here and tell me what's really going on. And the second step was my conversation with Linda, who ended up being the best thing that's ever happened to me. Because I told her my story on the phone, and I said, look, I don't believe I can get better. I can't see a way out of this. I don't know what's going on, and I can't get to you. I can't even do any of this. And she just said, look, she told me kind of how she worked, and then she said something that I'll never forget, and she just said, I'm not going to teach you not to be scared. She's like, I'm not going to teach you how to be calm. I'm not going to teach you to get rid of your anxiety. I'm not going to teach you not to be scared of travelling. I'm going to teach you how to face it. Which was not what I wanted to hear, obviously. I kind of wanted it to go away, I wanted to feel better. But deep inside I knew that was what I needed, because I'd been scared of being scared for about 2 years at that point. And it was utterly exhausting. I had nothing left. And so I was like, right, okay, I kind of knew somewhere in that kind of weird deep wisdom that you have somewhere inside you that this was what I needed. And so I went and started having therapy with her. And it quickly became obvious that obviously needed to be facing it, which when you're living in leafy New Forest, there's not much to be scared of unless your fear is cows. So I took a job in central London, which was mad at the time, but her therapy was damned expensive. And I was scared of getting on the tube and scared of driving, and I had to be where the fear was, and I had to pay for it. So I took a part-time job, working back what I was doing before, and I started living with some friends part-time, and I started doing the work she gave me to do. And the thing that's amazed me and I cannot ever get over is how fast I got better. when I really started doing what she asked me to do, how fast it changed. And I've looked back on it so many times, and I talked to her about it so many times about what changed, and there's kind of really a couple of things that I can kind of pinpoint that I always want to share with people. One of them was that I was utterly determined that it was going to change. I'd had enough, I think. Tiffany talked about it earlier, when you get to the point when you've got nothing else to lose. And I would do anything. And the second thing, which is so unbelievably crucial, is that she was a specialist. And I've been to so many people, and I've given up so many times, and I think it's everyone in any profession is brilliant at what they do, but they're brilliant at what they do. And when it comes to mental health, there are so many different things that we suffer with, and everyone is different. And I think I found the right person for me. And she was very expensive, but she was absolutely brilliant. And I didn't need that many sessions. Within about 6 weeks, I was on the tube again, which was crazy to me, because I couldn't even go in a station. But she came and did it with me. She didn't just give me some tools, she didn't give me a workbook or a handout or a leaflet. You know, she didn't just say, go away and do these techniques. She said, right, next week we're going to go. And she came with me, and we went on the escalator down together, and we talked it through. And in those moments, she was like, I'm not going to get you to calm down. So I was thinking she's going to be there to teach me how to, okay, well, I'm here and it's going to be okay. She's like, no, I want you to freak out. Which was baffling to me. I was like, she said, I need you to do your best to have a panic attack. And I was like, well, why? Why would I want to do that? I've been trying to avoid that for the last 2 years. And she was like, because nothing happens to you when you have a panic attack. It just doesn't feel very nice.
Yeah.
I was like, what? She was like, nothing actually happens to you. It's not dangerous. Nothing bad happens to you. You're not unsafe. It doesn't feel very nice. It really doesn't feel very nice. I get that. But nothing bad's going to happen to you. You're not unsafe. So she was like, what are you really scared of? And I was like, I'm really scared that, and I realised I actually had no idea what I was really scared of until she really asked me, what are you really scared of? And I was like, I'm really scared that I'm going to lose it. And I'm going to literally start running around on this tube and scratching at the door like a rabid dog and be crying and uncontrollable and insane, and someone's going to lock me up. They're going to, I'm going to hurt myself, I'm going to hurt somebody, I'm going to throw myself under the train, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to go crazy. And she was like, okay, you need to know that you cannot go crazy from having anxiety. She's like, it's just not the same thing. She was like, psychosis is not the same thing. She's like, yes, obviously you can have psychosis and that's devastating and that's a very different thing. But she was like, if you suffer with a panic disorder, you can't catch psychosis from that. You can't go crazy from that. You can't actually have those breaks from reality that people have when they have psychosis. She said, so the worst that's going to happen to you is you're going to get very upset. You're going to feel awful. You're going to feel like you're having a heart attack, but you won't. You'll feel like you're going to throw up. I mean, you might, but even then, nothing's going to happen to you. You're thrown up or passed out, but again, nothing's happened to you. And she said, that's what I need you to do. So on that tube, standing on the platform to start with, she was like, I need you to do anything you can to try and feel worse. Stand on one leg, look at the lights, literally stuff like that. It was so ridiculous at the time, and it kind of made me chuckle, because I was like, this is just silly, But it was really hard to make myself freak out. Unless I tried really hard to stay calm, and then it started to build, and I started to feel worse and worse. And that was the most profoundly life-changing day ever, because I realised there was nothing to be scared of inside me. There was just nothing was going to happen, no matter how bad I felt. She was going to be there to look after me if something happened, and nothing did. And I was like, oh my God, I've been scared of myself all this time, because I thought that if I lost it, if I had a panic attack, then something would happen to me, and it didn't. So she then obviously left. And I had to do it on my own, which was obviously the next step of being utterly terrified. And I did it. And I did it over and over again. And I will never pretend that it wasn't the hardest thing I've ever done. Hands down, the hardest thing I've ever done was every single one of those journeys. Because I wasn't suddenly okay. It was every day I had to take another journey. And I used to, on my lunch break, go and one more tube stop. Okay, I'm going to get on this one and come out here like a little rabbit, down. up and, another stop, and to try and kind of just little by little by little. And over time, it got better. And it's funny looking back on it now, because I feel immensely proud of what I did, because I know how hard it was for me to do that. And I'm so utterly grateful for having gone through it, because I wouldn't be who I am now. Because the things now that scare me, I go, I can do something about that. I can face that. I used to be a total scaredy cat. I used to be scared of everything. And now I try things, like literally, like the other day I went cycling for the first time since I was a kid, pretty much. And I was terrified, which sounds ridiculous as an adult, but I was like, whereas before I would have gone, and then I'm not going to do it then, because I'm scared. I was like, nothing's going to happen to me, I'm just going to freak out, and then I'll stop freaking out, and then I'll go cycling. So it's been weirdly, just overwhelmingly life-changing from something that I thought was going to be the worst thing that ever happened to me. And so out of that, I have started telling my story to people. I've been writing a book, which is nearly finished, it's just being edited, and I'm developing courses and webinars and things online to try and share my story with people. And sometimes I feel really weird about it, because I talk about it so much to my friends and family that I think they're sick of hearing about it. They're like, yeah, that anxiety thing, yeah. We're so proud of you. Well done, And I think most people that I know are just kind of a bit like, enough already, it's a long time ago, let it go. But what amazes me is that I've spoken to so many people, and most people I speak to never got over it. Most people I speak to are managing it somehow. They're just knuckling down and getting on that tube like this, thinking in a minute I can get off, or they're just not going on the tube at all, or they're not driving, or they're not, whatever it is they're scared of, they're just not doing it. And it makes me so sad that people don't know that it's possible, not easy in any way, but possible to actually get better. And I really hope, if you take anything away from my talk today, that if you find the right help, and I do mean the right help, and if you don't find the right help, keep asking, find the next specialist, the next specialist, the next specialist, and be pig-headed about it until you find somebody, because there will be somebody who can go, I know exactly what that is, and I can help you. And you'll know that they can help you for one reason, and one reason only, and that is because it works for you. And if it doesn't work for you, they're not right for you. But if it works, do it, it's possible, I promise. And if there's anything I can do, I'm always happy to talk to anybody. So if you ever find yourself freaking out about something and you want someone to talk to, I'm here. But in the meantime, thank you for listening to my story.